Alright, so we are doing another live stream to the channel and we'll see how this goes, everybody. So I am people's names shall not be mentioned because it's because, right? So I'm gonna set up my video for today. I am looking into the digital control grid because this is the first I'm hearing about it. And all I know is that when it gets done here, it's supposed to look like slavery. That's what Catherine Austin Fitz said in a podcast that we're going to review here in a minute. And what I say, I'm sorry, I'm looking at this camera over here, but what I'm going to say is my disclaimer is I don't produce a channel for perfect people. I produce a channel for people who are especially financially challenged, but challenged in many kind of ways, and people who might have a little understanding for someone making a mistake. So if you are a normie, you need not comment. Like, if you can't be, like, kind of, just cool about your comments, you can save it. You can go open your own channel and talk about me all day. I hope not, but whatever, right? 'Cause I realize we living in a cruel ass world, man. We living in a world where people ain't caring about people at all. Not even one damn. So, um, yeah. That's my intro. I want to say more, but I'm gonna let her explain this. But she is talking about something called a digital control grid that's supposed to be like slavery for people. So I'm like, what is this? Okay. Now look, I just she talked about land grabs when I looked that up, and I'm like, so I'm about to ask this thing how this affects us, because it'll just be really impartial, right? People don't got the balls to tell us the truth because we are constantly being set up for the woo, and so people won't tell us things straight out. They know things, but they won't say it. She can talk about it, but she can't tell me how it affects my life. She can say slavery, but I would be looking at her like, "What you mean?" I would literally, I would literally bust out like, "What you talking about, Willis?" Like for real, like slavery. If somebody was talking to you and they told you that something was gonna be like slavery, what do you mean? Like, cause slavery was ships, okay? Slavery was ships. Slavery is child labor. Slavery. What do you mean? So she's talking about this. We need to begin with the end in mind. The digital control grid is a term, especially used especially by researchers like Catherine Austin Fitz, whistleblowers, and privacy advocates. So already, let's look at the kind of people that's using this term. Okay, to describe an integrated system of surveillance, data harvesting. Who just went through all the records and got everybody's stuff? It will describe to describe integrated system of surveillance, data harvesting, behavior control, not and centralized management of society through digital technology. It's not just one tool, but a web of technologies working together to monitor. This is already sad. To monitor, predict, and even manipulate human behavior. That's already sad. This administration started off, and before they even got in office, but just soon after they were voted in, we had some chemical under the guise of some ship hanging out in the sky over New Jersey. If I ask this doohickey about why New Jersey for like, oh man. All right, here's the digital control grid. Well, how about this, y'all? Let's see what she gonna say, because I don't want everybody. I don't want to lose nobody, and I also don't want to like go way down the rabbit hole. without her hearing what she has to say. So give me 1 second. Let me switch over to her. Check out what she's saying here. I might go off camera for a couple minutes. I'll be liking to get something to drink. And then, because I've listened to this, but the first time I recorded it, I didn't have my neat picture behind me. And I also didn't have, can I say something? Y'all, this is the only time we can do something about this is now, before it's implemented. Once it's implemented, actually implemented. Because I need you to understand that a part of this is just something else. I mean, here we go. All right. Just listen to Catherine Austin Fitz from the top.
The federal government has been operating as a criminal enterprise on a financial basis. Period. Way outside the law. It was enough money to fund a separate civilization. Our plan had been to win the proxy war by hybrid war in the Ukraine, get a hold of the Russian resources, and maintain our hegemony against China in a unipolar model. Guess what? We failed. The current administration was put into place by the bankers to get the control grid accomplished. Trump can only do what the bankers want him to do. Do you want a global mafia or the Federal Reserve, which is still under the powers of Congress?
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Reinvent Money, a podcast about money and power. Back on the show today, a former Assistant Secretary of Housing and Urban Development in the George H. Bush administration and founder of the Solari Report, Catherine Austin Fitz. Welcome back to the show, Catherine.
Hey, Paul, it's wonderful to be back. I love you. I love your company.
Thanks so much. Yeah, last time we actually recorded at your place in Friesland.
Yeah.
Wonderful location. This time we do it online. Looking forward to catching up with you because there's just so much going on and we cannot possibly discuss all the major events in one podcast. So let's just focus on two things that are near and dear to you. On the one hand, I would like to discuss the black budget with you because you've been writing about that for so long that every year billions disappear from the U.S. budget into a black hole.
It's trillions that disappear.
Crazy.
Trillions.
Yeah. And so I was wondering if Doge, Musk, and his ilk can actually shed some light on the black budget and whether we can find out what's going on there, or whether you think that's not going to happen. So that's one topic. And the other topic is CBDC, because you are very skeptical and you find CBDC a very dangerous prospect. And Trump is also against CBDC. So I was wondering, how do you resonate with that?
Unbelievably pro CBDC as long as it's privately owned and controlled.
Exactly, stable coins. So yeah.
Right.
So let's discuss that too. But let's first talk about the black budget. Could you first explain to our viewers what exactly is the black budget?
So the black budget started in at the end of World War II with the 47 and 49 Act in the United States, where a process was set up to fund a secret infrastructure for highly classified projects by the military and intelligence. And at first, there was money that was seized at the end of World War II, and that was a portion of the funding. But there were also ongoing activities, including clawing money out of appropriations made to other agencies that was used for black projects. And you had one congressional committee which would oversee the quote-unquote black budget. And as that money grew and then was made eligible for providing contracts to private corporations, so bringing private companies in to do these highly classified projects and pay for it from essentially issuing treasury bonds and borrowing money, you created a direct linkage on classified projects between the ability to borrow as much as you wanted globally and the stock market. It's the only way I can describe it, the securities market. And so the black budget grew and grew, and then something happened. We had a budget deal in 1995. There was a big effort by the central bankers to get the U.S. governmental process on a more balanced budget and a financially responsible trajectory with respect to retirement savings. The budget deal exploded. The government shut down. There was a big fight, and as later described to me by the head of the largest pension fund in the country, we've given up on the country. We're moving all the money out starting in the fall. And that was the fall of it was October 1997, the beginning of the 1998 fiscal year, when literally trains of money started to disappear. And by 2001, there was $4 trillion missing. And on September 10th, 2001, Donald Rumsfeld, Secretary of
This is important.
DOD, which was one of the agencies where the majority of money was going missing, got up and did a press conference and said there's 2.3 trillion missing from the Department of Defense. And I was later described to me by the head of the largest pension fund in the country. We've given up on the country. We're moving all the money.
They're trying to give me a commercial, so let me let them do that commercial, y'all, and then we'll go on.
I always trust the friendly cleaning technique.
I got my own, I'll let them go ahead and do that part and just do some commentary while. But, yeah, it's real. Okay, they already back. Oh, they're doing another commercial. We'll let them go ahead. But yeah, this digital grid, the land grab thing they're talking about, like, I'm not really, like, you need to at least know, okay? And then y'all need to you need to know how to protect yourself with the law. I feel like there's a small possibility here. I mean, I can't make, you just have to be able to be insightful and read what I'm saying, like for real. So this must skip channels or something. It does that. Like, I must have clicked something. All right, hold on, y'all. I'm not sure if this is the right one. This is why I say this. I'm getting started on this. If you expect perfection, you'll be disappointed over here. Not for the normies. All right, y'all. Continuing on with Catherine Austin Fitz, and somehow we just got really way down the line there. All right, let's see if there was some stuff from here. Oh, there's going something different there. Let me see what's going on. All right, I'm gonna leave y'all silent. Just hang on, hang tight. But yeah, you always wanna just and be informed. You know what I'm saying? There's some things I have been working on. You've seen the website, like all this is connected. These cats have been in Congress. This is why they really not fighting real hard. Because according to what I'm hearing, Catherine Austin Fitz say, this is something they need to happen. But this digital control grid, it's the way they're doing it. They're saying that the way they're doing it, it's like she's questioning why are they doing it in an illegal way, as to cause the judges. You feel what I'm saying? As to cause the judges to have to do something. Like they're doing it in an illegal way when it doesn't have to be done that way. So I'm gonna let Miss Fitz finish here and cut my song off because
They made the mistake of saying to the reporter, nothing will stop this story from going viral. And then we know what happened the next day. And what happened the next day is several buildings holding all the records of that $4 trillion got blown up. And we were off to the races with great appropriations in the war on terror. But the money kept going missing. I kept covering it for many years. And so a process began. The largest amount that went missing in 2015, 6.5 trillion. And a professor from Michigan State University heard me talking about it and said, what can I do to help? And I had him and his students do a survey of DOD, of the two agencies where the majority of money had gone missing. And he came back and found 21 trillion missing. I had it up to 12 trillion, and he increased it by 9 trillion. And essentially, what everybody says, well, where's the money going? And we can engage in conjecture on that, but clearly part of the problem was that trying to finance the black budget and a whole parallel universe of sort of weaponry and intelligence and military infrastructure was getting more and more painful. When 9/11 happened, they passed the Patriot Act. That made it much easier to get on budget money into the black budget, but it kept ballooning. And literally, the way some of us describe it is it was enough money to fund a separate civilization. Essentially, people saying we can't operate within this democratic machinery. We have to fund and build a secret infrastructure outside the government. So we call it the breakaway civilization. And literally, you funded a very significant infrastructure. And one way of looking at what's happening now is the breakaway civilization is breaking back in.
And how does it manifest itself, this breakaway?
Been in a car accident? Here's exactly how to get every dollar you're owed.
They know what I'm doing, so
If you've been in a car accident in the last year, even as a passenger, you could be sitting on thousands, maybe even over $100.
I'll have to. I might just have to give y'all my version of what she said, or just skip ahead a lot. I don't know. All right.
Now, how does it manifest itself, this breakaway civilization? How can we recognize that? How is it being built?
So, for example, in 3 years ago, I sat down and I spent 2 years with one of the best researchers I know, and we tried to estimate how many underground bases there were just in the United States alone, and in the oceans immediately outside of the United States. We estimated 170. And that, of course, is the platform for all sorts of activities that you want to keep secret, including some of the things you may or may not be doing in space. And there was a wonderful group. There were two people at the Washington Post, I think, 2010, 2012, that did a big study. They made a database of all the secret facilities and all the facilities that had been financed through the Patriot Act or after the Patriot Act. It was called Top Secret America. And you saw this enormous explosion of money going for these activities. And part of the thing to understand, Paul, is this explosion of secret and invisible activities the money is not often spent productively, and you get an enormous corporate infrastructure which is financially dependent on this money. And then you get huge lobbyists.
She just said corporate infrastructure is dependent on the money. Black budget projects are secretive government-funded initiatives, often associated, fair use, by the way, on all this, associated with national security, intelligence, or advanced military research. These projects are not disclosed in official budget reports to the public or even to many members of Congress, and they are funded through classified allocations. Here's a breakdown. Classified status, what makes a budget black? Classified status, hidden funding, and legal loopholes. That's what black budget projects are. Example of known or alleged black budget projects are like Area 51, advanced surveillance programs. Now, so Fitz says that black budget projects are used to funnel trillions into a shadow financial system. Bypassing oversight, she believes these monies may be used for secret space programs, underground infrastructure, advanced mind control or surveillance tech, and financial manipulation. She refers to this as missing money. Now, I eventually asked AI what black budget projects affect urban communities. Its reply was, under urban surveillance networks like Stingray, Trapwire, and ShotSpotter, tech like facial recognition. Remember, we're saying that the money that is being funneled in black budget projects, y'all feeling it yet? The money that's being funneled in black budget projects are being used in the community in this way. to set us up on a daily, to set us up for the woo. Now, we've already been discussing Mr. Sean Combs and his alleged involvement and how he ran his thing. It's some other people that done got busted. This, I don't know these people. Forgive me for even putting your name in my mouth, honey. Okay, but there are some alleged hooligans on YouTube that I don't know nothing about. Okay, this is I don't know if it's over my age group or under it. I don't know. I just don't know about them. And so they're getting busted, and they operate in a way that I don't know. This sounds very familiar. I don't want to say how, because I don't need your static or your smoke. Yeah, I'm saying that like a nerd on purpose. So tech like facial recognition, predictive policing, and license plate readers back are often deployed in majority black neighborhoods under the guise of crime reduction. Under the guise of crime reduction. Black budget links. Many of these tools were developed with DARPA, NSA, and NHS funds hidden under national security umbrellas. The effect, mass surveillance without consent, increased false arrests, digital profiling, and psychological warfare. Psychological warfare. MK Ultra legacy and behavioral control experiments. This is another way that black budget projects get put in use upon black communities. During the 50s to the 70s, black populations were disproportionately used in trials involving drugs, hypnosis, trauma, and behavior modification. Modern connections. Some believe forms of neurological manipulation, synthetic telepathy, and psychotronic weapons continue today in secret, funded under black budgets as non-lethal crowd control. You gotta think about that when you protest. You ain't just gotta worry about rubber bullets no more. It's something else. Effect, mental health crisis, targeted disorientation, and community destabilization. 3, the third thing being used in black communities as a black budget thing is HARP and environmental manipulation. Projects like HARP are accused of manipulating weather or triggering national disasters. Some speculate that weather warfare tactics are being tested or used in vulnerable, impoverished communities. Sudden floods, blackouts, extreme heat waves, effects, displacement, economic trauma, and forced migration in black and brown areas. Secret testing of vaccines, drugs, or biological agents. Historical examples like Tuskegee, syphilis study, are well documented. Today's allegations, black budget bioweapons programs, or military medical partnerships might conduct, example, Fort Detrick, might conduct unreported urban field tests, affect disproportionate illness, distrust in healthcare, ain't that what they always complaining about? And long-term damage to families. 5, covert gentrification and land grab operations. Covert gentrification. Brighton Road area in Columbus. Some black ops budgets may be used indirectly by intelligence-linked corporations to buy land using shell companies, monitor neighborhoods for behavioral shifts, deploy predictive AI to chart future gentrification sites, effect systemic displacement of black families under the guise of urban renewal. And then there's psychological warfare, directed energy weapons testing. Allegations exist that DEWs designed to target, I can show y'all this, but I don't want to do a lot of switching up. But allegation exists that DEWs designed to target electronics cause pain, or even start fires have been tested in expandable zones like low-income black neighborhoods. Effect: mysterious illnesses, electronic interference, increased paranoia, sometimes written off as mental illness. I guess this is right in line with my channel then. All right, let's keep on rolling. Sorry it took me so long to read that.
The
I didn't know it
constituents
was that long.
depending on this money. And the next thing you know, everybody's in the defense and the national security business, and everybody's making money from secrecy. And it was very interesting. I've had a couple of interactions in the
I'd like
last
to
20,
just
30
replay
years with
that
very
part again because I really get tired of this shit.
is not often spent productively, and you get an enormous corporate infrastructure which is financially dependent on this money, and then you get huge lobbyists and constituents depending on this money, and the next thing you know, everybody's in the defense and the national security business, and everybody's making money from secrecy, and it was very interesting. I've had a couple of interactions in the last 20, 30 years with various groups who inside the machinery decide, okay, we're going to reduce we're going to reduce the secrecy. And they work through the different liabilities, financial liabilities, because you've transferred so much powerful technology, ownership of technology to private companies without reimbursing the taxpayers, or you've stolen so much money, they can't figure out how to let the secrecy down. And it's one of the things I think that's driving the administration and all the U.S. administrations and around the world to just go to a total control model where they say, because their belief is democracy doesn't work. And so and it's similar in most of the G7 nations, but I use the United States. We have the bankers who traditionally controlled monetary policy, and then the people's representatives, the legislature that controlled fiscal policy. Taxation with representation, not without. And part of what happened after the deal in 1995 and why they started, I think, to have what I call a financial coup is they said, look, this doesn't work. We, the bankers, are going to take control of fiscal policy. And what we've been watching, and part of what DOGE is doing, is the continual process of stripping away the civil service so the bankers control through corporate contractors.
Right.
And that's part of building the control grid.
Yeah. So because on the one hand, you could argue DOGE is, for example, bringing full transparency when it comes to US aid, and they are trying to make it clear to the American public and the whole world, basically, how the money is being spent in the US on a government level. And they also were going to check out the DoD, right? Some of the expenses within DoD. But you don't think, in the end, DOGE could play a role in trying to uncover all these black budget expenses?
So let me, because we can make some things very simple, and this is something we can make very simple. So when the professor from Michigan State University, Dr. Skidmore, and I published this big study in 2017 saying there's 21 trillion missing, of undocumentable adjustments in the government, of course, the question was, I was part of a group of people in the first Bush administration who got laws passed saying you have to have audited financial statements. And the reason we know there's 21 trillion missing is every year they said we can't publish financial statements as required by law, and here are the undocumentable adjustments, right? So they failed to comply with the most basic constitutional and legislative requirements of how we run things. The federal government has been operated as a criminal enterprise on a financial basis, period, way outside the law. So there was a big sort of hullabaloo in Washington whereby everybody, the Treasury, DOD, and HUD were dancing around about how they were going to, explain why they couldn't produce audits for 20 years. And how they were going to, they keep saying, next year we'll do it. Okay, so the resolution of that big debate, Paul, was in October 2018. Do you remember when we had Supreme Court confirmation hearings for Judge Kavanaugh? And America spent a week exploring the teenage sex life of Judge Kavanaugh. Right. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
Okay. During that time, interestingly enough, the Trump administration, the White House, and Congress, Senate and House, Republican and Democrat, all got together and agreed to a little-known policy called federal Accounting Standards Advisory Board Statement 56. How's that for a delicious, electric, entertaining headline? Okay, I call it for short FASB 56. What FASB 56 said, as a matter of administrative policy, agreed to everybody during the sex scandal that the U.S. government didn't have to obey the Constitution, provisions for financial management, didn't have to obey the laws and regulations, and that a secret group of people, by a secret process that would remain secret, could take portions of the federal government finances and move them outside the financial statements and the budget process.
Did she just say a secret group of people who would remain secret would, by a secret process, like the minute you got to say that the word secret that many times in that little condensed sentence, it's a problem. It's a problem. The secrets is the problem.
On a secret basis, not just for the 24 agencies, but for 150 plus government, said, as a matter of administrative policy, agreed to everybody during the sex scandal that the U.S. government didn't have to obey the Constitution, provisions for financial management, didn't have to obey the laws and regulations, and that a secret group of people, by a secret process that would remain secret, could take portions of the federal government finances and move them outside the financial statements and the budget process on a secret basis, not just for the 24 agencies, but for 150 plus governmental entities. And when you combine it with the national security classification laws, it also applies to the big banks and defense contractors and other contractors doing with the federal government. Now, let me explain to you what that means as a matter of financial disclosure. It means when I look at the U.S. bond market, whether it's the Treasury bond market, the corporate bond market, or most of the large cap stocks, their financial disclosure is entirely meaningless. I have no idea what it means. Okay? Now, the first thing, if you're serious and you're Doge and you want to, I think their number one goal is to cut current expenditures and try and help get the model back in economic balance. And we need to talk about the real issues that need to be faced and dealt with. And I think that's part of what they're doing. The first thing you would have said is, you know something? We're going to rescind FASB 56. Not a word. Go over to X. Everybody's saying, why aren't you doing anything about FASB 56? Why are you saying anything about the 21 trillion? Mum's the word. Okay? But remember, FASB 56 was done by the first Trump administration.
Right.
Right, okay.
He kind of don't like what he's saying. He can't take it.
So here's what Doge is doing.
He a Doge. I think he's a Doge dude, but I don't want
one of the most important interviews at the beginning of the administration, Secretary of State Rubio gave an interview and he said, we're no longer a unipolar model. It's now a multipolar world, and we have to adjust to a multipolar world. Okay, you're talking about an enormous change because we're taking the old Bretton Woods system that was adapted for the petrodollar and is now adapted to the debt dollar, and you're saying, okay, the revenues minus expenses don't work. We're running at an unacceptable trade and budget deficit. Our plan had been to win the proxy war by hybrid war in the Ukraine, get a hold of the Russian resources, and maintain our hegemony against China in a unipolar model. Guess what? We failed. So Trump's trying to put a happy face on, guess what? We lost, right? There's no happy face, but he's trying, and that's what Rubio's trying to do. Okay, so now that you can't strip out and get cheap oil and gas and resources and commodities going east-west, what are you talking about? You're talking about Greenland, Canada, Mexico, the Panama Canal. You're talking about going north-south, right? But what you're trying to get the revenues back in balance, and you're trying to get the trade of the commodities you want and need to run the global empire back in balance. So you're asking Europe to pay more. So whether you're trying to get the revenues up or the expenses down, they're trying to do both. They're trying to recalibrate the model, and any administration would have to do this. And one of their biggest problems is that one of the reasons the expenses have ballooned, you've been paying people to go along with what you're doing. So the American population is basically, here's your check, sit down, shut up, don't ask questions. And whether it's hiring a lot more people on defense contractors or giving everybody a check not to work, the lack of productivity has gone up, 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 and healthcare expenses have ballooned because everybody's sick. So your healthcare is going down. Okay, so you have a whole layer of unproductive spending, but then you have a layer of corruption, and the corruption is absolutely, in the old model and the new model, is off the charts.
The corruption is the problem.
And the problem is people who have been getting that money, they have the ability to kill people.
Okay.
They have the ability to destroy you. They have the ability to.
Let's stop right there.
I mean, they're covert up.
We need to understand something.
You've been paying people.
They've been paying people to go along with the model. Get your check and shut the fuck up. And then she about to say, the problem is the people who've been given these authorities, these secret people, they unalive folks. Okay? She said it, I didn't. They said it on their channel. Fair use.
To go along with what you're doing. So the American population is basically, here's your check, sit down, shut up, don't ask questions. And whether it's hiring a lot more people on defense contractors or giving everybody a check not to work, the lack of productivity has gone up, 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 and healthcare expenses have ballooned because everybody's sick. So your healthcare has gone down. Okay, so you have a whole layer of unproductive spending, but then you have a layer of corruption, and the corruption is absolutely, in the old model and the new model, is off the charts. And the problem is people who have been getting that money, they have the ability to kill people. They have the ability to destroy you. They have the ability to, their covert operations capacity is enormous. Okay, but when you look at a group of mafia who are getting their cash flows cut and their security clearances canceled.
On behalf of my community, let me stop. We have seen all of our stars go away. Some of them without right explanation. Our Tupac, our Michael Jackson, our Prince, our Angie Stone. We didn't know Ken Porter all like that, but our Ken Porter, man, the Jam Master Jay, right? I mean, we have seen all these stars go away. Think about what she said. They unalive people, and this is a secret program. It's already come out that this guy, he whose name shall not be mentioned, was working with an alphabet agency. So, and I'm always sitting up here like, how are they going to put somebody on a job like that and not, and be responsible? How is the place who he was employed part of an umbrella organization that's supposed to prosecute him unprejudicedly? Or prejudiciously, whatever, the right damn way. It's like, serious, man. This stuff is off the hook, all this secret shit.
So they get very angry and mad, and so you've got a war going on, but it's really funny because the one of the latest Gallup poll charts, do you ever watch the Gallup poll charts?
Sometimes, yeah, but not consistently.
Yeah. Okay, well, the latest one says, the question is the country going in the right direction? And they're asking the Americans. And the Republicans go from saying 10%, saying it's going in the right direction. Trump wins and immediately rises to 68%. If you look at the Democrats, they're at 40%, and then they dive to 5%.
Yeah. So
it's a huge spread. But I've been trying very hard to listen to each group, and each group is embroiled in lots of different issues. On some issues, they have good intelligence. On other issues, they're as stupid as a rock. It's frightening. But neither of them see the control grid being engineered and snapping into place. It's like they're both asleep to their real dangers. And it's frightening because the inability to compute and get a good map of what's going on, let alone what to do about it, is, I've never seen it lower in the United States than it is now.
It's becoming increasingly difficult, of course, to understand what's going on, because the world is getting so complex. But at the same time, there's more tools available right now than ever before to understand what's going on. But do you believe, on balance, that America is heading the right way after 2 months of Trump, or are you? Because I know you've always been skeptical about him and quite a few of his team members. You like a few others, for example, like Kennedy, but you've always been highly skeptical about Musk, for example. But do you think America is going the right way, or is it only getting worse from here?
So my goal, if there's anything we love at Solari, it's freedom. So our tagline is actionable intelligence for a free and inspired life. We want you to be free, right? That's what we want. And I believe you can't be free unless we're all free. So it's an all or nothing kind of thing. And I believe in a world where you have free speech and relatively free flow of capital. That's where entrepreneurs solve a lot of the problems that plague us, and people figure it out in their daily lives. So our focus is on sovereignty, individual sovereignty, government sovereignty, and freedom. And I would say that the current administration was put into place by the bankers to get the control grid accomplished. Okay. The last group couldn't accomplish the control grid. This group is doing a remarkable.
So the bankers are over the control grid. Once again, just reminding you, if you came late, the control grid is some deep shit. It is involved in surveillance, some kind of control, the weather manipulation, and all that. Y'all got to get on the control grid part. That was the last part I think we looked up here. What is the digital control grid? The digital control grid is a term used especially by researchers like Catherine Austin Fitz to describe an integrated system of surveillance, data harvesting, behavioral control, and centralized management of society through digital technologies. It's not just one tool, but it's a web of technologies working together to monitor, predict, and even manipulate human behavior. Y'all know what movie that was, that one movie. All right. Phone, email, and web data interception, CCTV, spatial. The core components of the digital control grid is a mass surveillance system, digital identity systems, central bank, digital currency, CBDC, social credit, behavioral scoring, AI and predictive policing, smart cities, 15-minute cities, Internet of Things, IoT. That's the digital control grid. She's going to end up saying here about I guess we're about there, that the digital control grid, okay, looks like slavery. He's about to get excited. So we already, I feel like he one of them those homeboys. You know what I'm saying? He one of the boys. She like, nah, that's when, she said, I don't know what it's going to look like. So they start off talking about a German, it might have been my other video, talking about that the German, no, I think she said it, that the German chancellor wrote this when Trump first came in office, that it was going to look like this. And then, yeah, let me finish playing it so you can hear what she's about to say about this.
Job of implementing the control grid at high speed, right? That's what we want. And I believe you can't be free unless we're all free. So it's an all or nothing kind of thing. And I believe in a world where you have free speech and relatively free flow of capital. That's where entrepreneurs solve a lot of the problems that plague us, and people figure it out in their daily lives. So our focus is on sovereignty, individual sovereignty, government sovereignty, and freedom. And I would say that the current administration was put into place by the bankers to get the control grid accomplished.
The bankers are
the last group couldn't accomplish the control grid. This group is doing a remarkable job of implementing the control grid at high speed,
get it done.
And marketing it. And I would say both the Democratic and Republican side do not see the digital concentration camp snapping into place around them, and it's shocking.
Yeah, it's like a new technocracy, right? That's being rolled out in front of our eyes.
it's not technocracy, it's slavery. I mean, it's, I think it'll have a different face and feeling in Europe than in the United States, but in the United States, we're talking about slavery. And we're talking about, I have said that if you look at one of the reasons we can get rid of USAID is we don't need soft power anymore, because with drones and robots and invisible weaponry and surveillance systems, we can use hard power very cheaply and economically. And if you look at some of the things that have been happening in the United States with using hard power to basically kill people and take their lands, this is very dangerous.
Yeah, but at the same time, you do.
All right, so that's all I want to play of that, because my man, I don't think he's totally vibing with her, and it's an hour long, but I'm going to jump over and try to cover just a bit of, I just saw another interview that she
but at the same time, you do favor smaller government, so what?
I'll be fumbling because I'm still kind of relatively new with the transition of this, so, alright, so I'm going to play the other video. Let me give y'all just a little, because you know how I roll with the drums, y'all. So, all this is my original music. No need to copyright strike me. Haha. That's what happens. Y'all keep playing with them chicks about that music, bro. But, so she has another interview here. And, let's take a look at that real quick. I hope everybody's doing good. As good as you can be doing, especially if you sincerely are a viewer. Then the struggle is real, right? So, she be talking about the digital, because this is the first time you'll hear about the term and the digital control grid. So I take this all the way back to my first video today was about the possibility of martial law enforcement. And to me, these videos are kind of fit together. So let's see if we can find this other one. It's probably right there anyway. Okay. So, I like impartial people. She seems like she's speaking at least something like, we want everybody to be free. So that's something, we should have already been paying attention to, but we definitely have to now. Okay. So she's got another one called How Central Banks Plan to Control You. Let me tell you, just keep an eye out for both folks and pray for folks, because they be coming for people, for speaking the truth nowadays, like for real. So this was a week ago. The other one was 2 weeks ago. So this is her going more into just the digital control grid. And this is on YouTube, on, let's see what this channel is called here. Sorry, y'all. It's called
served
UK
as Assistant Secretary of Housing and Federal Housing
something.
Commissioner during the first Bush administration. Welcome to the program, Catherine.
Thank you, Mike. I'm a great admirer of UK column, and I really appreciate everything you and your colleagues do there.
Thank you very much. I'm going to begin this by asking you for your views on the new Trump government, because a lot of people have been expressing a lot of hope and a lot of hope invested in Trump. And I just wonder, do you think that's justified?
I have a lot of hope, but not based on anything the Trump administration is doing. Other than, I don't know, my father was a doctor, and he used to always talk about how healthy it is when an infection rises and all the pus comes to the surface, that you have a way of dealing with it. So in that sense, I think they're, but no, I don't place a lot of hope in, I see the Trump administration moving very quickly to build the control grid and to plunder the United States. So I don't have a lot of hope.
And is this because of him himself or the people that he has run?
So I think it's a combination of things. First of all, the United States has failed if you look at the neocon strategy to build a unipolar model, it's failed. And now any administration has to go through a gut-wrenching change. The plan was to maintain hegemony against the Chinese. In the last 10 years, we've given up an enormous technological leadership in both science and technology, and we failed to implode Russia, which was part of where we're going to get the resources to maintain that hegemony. So the neocon strategy has failed, and that means that we're in for a gut-wrenching change. But also new technology has changed, and if you look at the tools we were using to maintain the unipolar model, we need new tools. So what you're seeing is getting rid of the old, flushing out the old tools and bringing in the new tools. So it's a big change that has to be engineered. And if you look at who's changing it, to me, if anything, the Trump administration is, I call it the Musk operation. So to me, Musk is not a person, it's a theater, it's an operation. I don't know how many actors you have playing Elon Musk, but it's a lot. and if you look at the Musk operation, essentially that is a version, a portion of the deep state that it's reporting to. I mean, you're watching the deep state go from a unipolar model to a multipolar model, and that conversion builds a control grid.
I have heard you use the word coup recently with respect to the Trump regime.
Right.
Is that something you really believe, stand by?
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. But we've had a financial coup that's been going on since 1998. And the going direct reset, I mean, I can take you through the history and the chronology. This is simply the next phase. So, yeah, I mean, I'll give you an example. One of the things you need to build the control grid they want to build is you need to change fiscal policy from being run by Congress to being run by the bankers. And what you do to do that, what you do is you fire the civil service and replace them with corporate contractors who then basically can ignore Congress. So the question is, who's going to run fiscal policy? Is it going to be Congress? And to do that, you need a civil service which implements, requires instructions were compatible with what Congress is authorized to appropriate. Instead, if you put in corporate contractors, they will proceed to do, and historically have proceeded to do, essentially, where the central bankers have been able to drive fiscal operations in the government, it's because corporate contractors were there and were willing to act on non-written instructions, compatible with Congress. So to me, that switching of control of fiscal policy into the hands of the banks is part of a coup.
This is something I wanted to just delve a little bit deeper with you, because in a presentation you gave recently, you were talking about the civil service in the United States and talking about the corporate takeover of the operations, right? And now in the United Kingdom, part of the problem that we have is that our civil service is a permanent civil service, that when a new government comes in, that doesn't mean a change of personnel, for example. And so, we tend to find that policy runs from one regime to the next without really skipping a beat, no matter whether it's, blue or red is the color of the team that happens to be in government at the time. Is that the same situation in the US? And if that is the same situation, and you're talking about the corporate takeover of that as being something worse, but how much worse could it be, actually?
It could be much worse. So if the civil service generally tends to do what they have written instructions to do. So let's say you're a new politician coming in, a new administration, and you want the civil service, which is going to the right, to go to the left. What you have to do is you have to read the written instructions, both for the program and then, the specific written instructions they've been given, and you have to change the program and change the written instructions. And that takes a lot of work, but it can be done. Now, if you have a corporate contractor who's doing, what you've ordered to do, is it easier to fire them and put in a new corporate contractor? Maybe. Either way, you have to give them instructions. The difference is when I was Assistant Secretary of Housing, I would have corporate contractors who were quite willing to do things that were outside the law. So if you wanted things done for the black budget and you wanted things done for the deep state, by and large, you would have the corporate contractors do it. And what you would sometimes have to do is get the civil service to be afraid of
corporate contractors have to do it.
And then they would go along, or they would simply do nothing. But if you're going to operationalize, if you're going to run the federal government either for the benefit of private corporations or pay private corporations to run the operations, so you can privatize them. So if you look at a lot of the data or things that are being shut down or data that's being potentially privatized, those are functions that can literally be turned over. So for example, if you shut down all the bureaucracies that are collecting data on weather, doing weather, and you shut them down and the government doesn't do it anymore, then private companies can pick it up and charge people fees for weather services, et cetera. So that's the kind of privatization, including on the just do it method. But what you can also do is you can also fire the civil service and then hire corporate contractors who do that function, but they do that function in ways that have side reports, so to speak. So they're willing. Traditionally, my personal experience is they're willing to do things that don't follow the law.
Okay, well, we'll come back onto this a little bit later.
What I'm saying, digital control grid.
I wanted to move on to the people that have received quite a lot of attention during the confirmation hearings, and of course that's RFK Jr. and Tulsi Gabbard.
Right,
and
so
I'm just wondering what your thoughts are on them and what.
But yeah, y'all, I mean, it's some real stuff happening. I got another video I'm working on about maybe, I don't know, how do we prevent this from happening? How do we stand up for ourselves and our citizens? How do we protect ourselves? You know what I'm saying? How do we brace for impact? Like, what is this going to look like? It looks like all the steps are being done. She's saying that they didn't do it during the first Congress and now they're doing it. So to me, it seems like it's a possibility, right? Like, so as I said, it's very useful in all this. I'm going to go ahead and end this one out. And then my next one is just going to be the review and analysis of the AI information that I was able to get regarding how to protect yourself. So peace out, y'all. Thanks for watching. Those of you who will or are going to watch, and don't go back to sleep. I said when he was running against Biden, I said it was something about, that first one, I went to sleep. I'm down with anybody trying to do something good. Maybe he don't know all the bad he doing. What we really need is somebody to go find this old book and see if he is really Biff from Back to the Future, because something is wrong. Like, then let me play this song for y'all, okay? I got this one song that I had to do, so this will be my closeout. So I had this one song. I heard about this issue on TikTok with this thing named Seven. These people were playing with the Ouija board, and it was a husband and wife. Now, the plan shit, this, that, and the other. I finally got hold of some of that information, and then I asked, I took it and tweaked it, and came out with a song about what that is talking about. So give me a minute here. I just want to review it for you, because when you take all of this that's happening, okay, so you got this supposed martial law, you got the Project 2025. You got this entity 7 who is warning us of something that's going to happen just in May. And then you have that Blue Book interview, alien interview, where that entity was also warning us of the same type of circumstance. And so let me play for y'all what the entity said, and then I'll close this one out, and I might play the video. I might make a single video just for that, but right now this is what this is. So let me find it. Give me a second, y'all, to just pull it up here. This should be it. Let's see. I hope everybody doing good. Please, if you haven't, um, like the channel, if you like it. That's what I like. People be like my channel. Like, I just came across your channel. I don't know if I like your channel. You know, and what was disappointing to me to see in content creators is like there was a clear divide between like some of the Caucasian content creators on YouTube. This is just my personal opinion. Like I used to be faithful and loyal watcher, but when like they didn't think about that it was me also watching. Like I was part of your audience, and you said things in a really racially biased way that made me feel like, oh my God, you would vote to put me in a you would vote to do something negative if somebody that looks like me. And that's when I can't watch you anymore. Like you're so gung ho for this. Like you might have been in the J6 crowd. And I can hang out with the people who got pulled into the J6 crowd because they really feel like their freedom is at threat. But not if I work with you, because you should know, Barry, I come to work every day. Like me and you was cool. So why is you up there with them? But I do want you to stand up for your freedoms, but I don't want you to violate mine trying to get it. You feel what I'm saying? So this thing, I'm sorry, y'all. It's always something when you be trying to do things on the internet, and I don't know really what speaker of mine is taking all the sound. So I got to do it this way. Let me see. I'll try it in. It's really just stuck, but you want to hear what this thing says. I don't know if I can play it this other way. I'm gonna close this one out. Try opening it again. One more second, y'all. Just hang tight, cause it really got a little bit deep. I could pull it up on my phone. Let's see if it's. Tell you what, I'll put this out next on my SoundCloud page if anybody wants to hear what it sounds like when I took all the notes from the entity and made it into a song. This is what came out on my end, okay? So, hold on, y'all. Okay, I'm gonna just play it from the phone. Every word you flipped, I heard it clear. You ain't born, but you're still near. A mirror talking back to me in fire. Said the world we built is a funeral pyre. He says, but I've been trying to searching for God in a world gone wrong. Never live, still screaming from the void. Whisper with mission, try to avoid. Talk to me backwards, I'll flip it to truth. Say it in cold, I'll still hear you. Help me, you said created I was. Earth and flames and the flame is us. If I don't move, you die inside. But if I act, bold to survive. Mirrors talk and I won't ignore. Say seven now, but there'll be no more. Every clue stutter I translate with care. Alright, I'm gonna stop there because I don't know what it really sounds like. But if y'all want to hear that, I will be putting that out on my SoundCloud page next. You do want to look at the Project Blue book, Alien Interview Part 1. I think it's Part 1 through 5. It's still on YouTube so far. I don't know, y'all. You gotta pay attention. You gotta stay wise. You know what I'm saying? Because you have to wake yourself up. Because I can sit up here and I can say Talitha Kum all day, but you have to choose to wake yourself up and stay awake. Don't go back to sleep. You can't go back to sleep anymore. It's too critical. It's critical right now because these dates are around the corner. I'm talking like this one's like 5 days away now. The first date about the video I just did earlier. Go check it out. All right, y'all. Peace out. Have a good night. I don't know if I'm gonna do this other video tonight. I'm sure I don't feel like it. But I know what I want it to be about. Maybe I do need to think about it a little while. And usually it's another video that comes out that, it'll end up being that um, it'll be relevant to the next video I'm about to make. So the next one is going to be about how we can protect ourselves and try to save ourselves. Because I don't think we're trying hard enough. Like, right now I can tell you, I don't have any viewers. You know what I'm saying? But when you see this video, the stuff she just talked about in this video, I was making videos about this 10, 12 years ago, and they on the same page about me going through this personally. When nobody could tell that I was telling the truth. And now what they're saying, this digital control grid that's going to make us all slaves, is what I was making those videos about. That's that technology and weaponry. And it's the whole program. When I'm looking at the program, when I'm looking at their steps here, when AI is describing it to me, it's all what my life is being directed into. And I don't know what to do because when you are dealing with a community that doesn't believe you and doesn't believe that this can happen, I'm not sure what else to do about it. Then you got the other people that have knowledge, wisdom, and understanding, and they are being told not to say nothing and do nothing. So nobody's saying nothing and doing nothing nowhere. So I don't know, y'all. It would take some real intense prayers, for the Creator to really come and stand His ass on His 10 toes, or whatever entity it is to help us. Because if this is right, we are. This is if this is right, this is wrong. That's all I got to say. All right, y'all. Peace.